Hello, Nirj, namaste, and how wonderful it is to welcome you back to the Art of Living International Center here in Bangalore. And every time you visit, you always come back with exciting updates about the work you are doing in your home country, Sri Lanka, in your other home country, the UK, and around the world. So we are looking, and you have very deep insights into what's happening in our world today. In the association we've had for the last almost 2.5 decades, I think every time our interaction has left me personally enriched with deeper insights about the world we live in. So today it is a great joy and delight for me and Ajay to have this short conversation with you, to hear from you about how you see the world that we are in today. We are in August of 2025, and I don't think there has been a time in history when the world has been more turbulent, geopolitically, socially, economically, even in terms of the natural calamities and disasters we are seeing around the world, and impact of climate change. So there are a lot of questions we have to hear from your perspective, and from your lens of what you see of the world today and how you see it in the future. So really excited to host this conversation with you.
Rajita, yeah, I'm very happy to be here. I'm delighted to be with old friends. To understand where we are today, we need to understand how we got to today. We didn't suddenly arrive on today just by accident. A whole series of events brought us to this point. And then what is happening at this point, that will take us to the next point. So how did we get to where we are getting? I'm sitting here in this studio talking to you in English. We all hold the same common values. We hold the values of democracy, the rule of law, parliamentary government. You know about Shakespeare, I know about Shakespeare. You know about Milton, I know about Milton. A lot of our readers and viewers might not, but you and I know. How did we get here? We got here because we had a shared history. About 2.5 billion people right now have that shared history. There are other parts of the world where, who is Shakespeare? Who is Milton? So they haven't shared our history. Now, how did we get to where we got to that we share a history? We got to where we got to because for 250 years, Western nations who have discovered industrial power through the steam engine overtook the old civilizations of Asia, China, and India, and, well, knocked us flat. With higher technology, higher understanding of how systems work, how to organize society, so on and so on. But we now also do the same. And actually, we are going to do it better because we have a deeper understanding of how life has been for 5,000 years. And so we can adopt and adapt a new idea quicker, better, and faster, which is what has happened in China, what is happening here in India. But then let's look at today the world's most powerful nation, which is also technically the world's most bankrupt nation, the United States. How old is the United States? It's 250 years old. 250 years old. How old is this country that I'm sitting here talking to you? 4,000 years of history, China 5,000 years of history. So how is it possible for a country that is 250 years old to become the most powerful country in the world, and countries like India are just catching up? How? Why? I'll throw you another question at you. When the British Raj ruled India, India had 300 million people. How many white people in the Raj were ruling the Indians? I'm asking you to make a bid. How many?
Yeah, a few thousand.
Well, the maximum number was what? 40,000. Now you tell me how 40,000 people, which is about the size of the Bangalore Municipal Council, can run a country like India with 300 million. Well, how did it happen? They built railways, they, according to Shashi Tharoor, smashed up the looms, the industries, took the production to England. All that happened. And it happened because your ancestors allowed it to happen. And your ancestors allowed it to happen because they, I think, thought that it's best that it happens, right? Take another example. When the country that was ruling your country was facing imminent annihilation in the First World War and Second World War, how many Indian soldiers volunteered to go and fight in France and in the deserts of North Africa to protect the imperial power from being taken over by Germany? How many people died? How many Indian soldiers died? 700,000 casualties. In the war, the British Army was the second largest. Guess who had the largest component of that war? Indian Army. Volunteered Indian Army. So how did that happen? So when we want to look at the future, we need to understand that these normative values that have taken place in the past, and to understand how people's minds work. Okay, so my basic thesis is the world is changing back to being normal. What happened in the last 250 years was a spike. We are now going back to being normal. That is, India and China were the largest nations in the world with 32% GDP, China, 29 or 30% GDP, India, and that is where we are going back to. Now, how do we manage this transition without allowing other people to smash it up, stop it, decelerate it? So we need to understand the mindsets of the people in the United States, the mindset of the people in Europe. And for 20 years, I made laws for 500 million people in Europe, and I understood what they thought and what I wanted them to understand, and how to make these laws which were compatible with their values. So what I'm trying to say is we need to understand the mindsets of the people we are engaging in through their history. Do I make it clear?
Yes.
Do you have something to say on that before I carry on?
No, please develop the idea. It's going on well.
In 250 years, the Americans turned a bare land of indigenous Indians and tents and not much else. No streets, no houses, no lights, no buildings, into being the largest economic power in the world, going to the moon and Jupiter and stars. 250 years. How? How? There was no World Bank, there was no IMF, there was no lenders and donors, but they created wealth. To cut it short, they created wealth by introducing something which was quite unique until then, property rights. They turned everything into property, and they leveraged that property rights into value, and value into mortgages, mortgages into loans, loans into banks, and all the staircase of wealth producing, by creating a formal economy from starting with property. But they created something where wealth was accumulated, and wealth actually is, if you like, a fiction. It's an expectation. And as we went through out of the gold standard, it became less and less a real thing. Today we have crypto, and that's another thing, which is, it's all in the mind. Wealth is in the mind. Nothing is of value. I mean, people buy $800,000 watches because it took so many hours to make it. But it could have been made in a cheaper country, but it was made in the most expensive country. So that's why its value is that. So it's all really a perception, creating wealth.
So that was a great development. And working on that same thesis, what Professor Angus Madison,
Exactly.
how he showed what India, China were, and
$25 trillion
yeah,
of wealth went this way.
went this way.
It's not coming back. How are you going to manage that?
Absolutely. And are we going to engineer it? Because the one thing that really troubles me today, if you see India at $4 trillion, we are what US was in 1985. We are China of 2007. But most importantly, we are Japan of 1993. So Japan from 93 to 2025 got stuck at $4 trillion. I remember 1989, the real estate in Tokyo was more expensive than the entire United States mainland. That was the kind of excess. And Plaza Accord happened, this, that, and the Japanese agreed. Today, if you read the Chinese intellectual writings, they are very clear we are not doing any Plaza Accord because Japan really entered a period of no growth post the Plaza Accords. So,
Japan did something quite ridiculous in hindsight. They took that wealth they had created and invested it in California and the United States. And then the Americans devalued
yes,
and wiped out that investment. Whether they did deliberately or not, the yen
that was the move.
move. So, again, we are now poised at a point where American wealth is still predominant. America is blessed with natural resources. America is now a net exporter of oil. So that oil dimension, which made America weak in the old days and supplicant to the oil producers, is no longer a factor. And they can say Yabu to the Gulf countries without going and pleading. So they've changed that. They become more self-sufficient in energy. They are self-sufficient in lithium. They are self-sufficient in the rare earths. They are self-sufficient in metal and steel. But they are not self-sufficient in production because they, again, are complaining about the thing that they actually did. They did it themselves. They took American capital and put it in China and got Chinese factories to produce cheap goods for American consumers. And when China accumulated wealth by exporting those goods to America, the Americans started complaining and saying, no, we don't want it made in China. But hello, who put the money in the Chinese factories to make those factories be able to make iPhones or whatever? It was American capital. They're doing it in Vietnam now. Watch this space. Vietnam is going to get clobbered one of these days. So, having done that, they are actually blaming the Chinese. They're start blaming the Indians for the iPhone factory.
yes, absolutely.
It's a game. It's moving perception.
And where do you see this game moving now, Nirj? Last week has been a lot of noise the last few weeks with the whole tariff war in a sense playing out in the world and meaning different things to different countries. In fact, Ajay always says that friends and foes are kind of being treated alike in a sense. So, how do you see this moving and evolving?
Who created the post-Second War Bretton Woods multilateral order? India? China?
No.
Africa? England? No. The United States.
Right.
Why? Because it was not of advantage to them? It was. Now it is not of advantage to them. So they're changing the rules, the order. Now there are a lot of people in the world who still want to cling to what was that order. Maybe it's not in the interest of any country now to recreate that order. That order was created so the American capital, the great dollar, could move across territories, build factories cheaply, get consumer goods for next to nothing back to the American consumer and have a great standard of living. I mean, you could buy, and I used to think about this, a video player for less than $50. If the Americans had made it themselves, it would have been $800. But the American consumer got it for $50. And the Chinese also made some profit out of it. So the order, the multilateral order, the Bretton Woods order was created by America. Now they're trying to create another order. You need a tariff-based tit-for-tat order. You do this, I do this. I think that's not going to work because, for example, in Sri Lanka, the Americans are saying import American cars to Sri Lanka at zero tariffs, and we will import your garment industry product at zero tariff to the US. You can drop the tariff to zero, but the consumer may not want to buy what you produce. Then who do you blame? You can have zero tariff, but does a Sri Lankan want to drive a huge American car or American goods? So President Trump is pursuing an America, made in America policy on the assumption that everything he's going to start making in America, the world will want and import at zero tariffs. I don't think he has done his market research. I'm not sure that they're going to be able to export unless they know what the Asian consumer wants, what the Indian consumer wants, and I see no in-depth understanding of the market. If they continue to do what they are making for the American consumer on the assumption that we will eat big beefsteaks and drive big American SUVs and all that, I think he's on the wrong track. It's common sense. Why should we buy those things? Am I right?
Yeah, and developing on that, is Trump an accident or is it he's a product of some historical evolution? Because 70 million plus Americans in the end voted for him or voted for this agenda. But this Make America Great agenda is becoming Make America Alone Again. The isolationism.
There are two strands here, Vijay, that's running around in American psyche. They created the United States to be isolated. They left Europe.
Yes.
They were a group of immigrants who came with very little and created the most amazing country in the world, with enshrined their freedoms in a constitution, fought a civil war to emancipate the slaves. They went through quite a lot of internal tension, even the issue of blacks and whites and schools, segregation, and all that they had to go through to create what is now a more fair society. Took 250 years, but in that period, they also created military power. And never forget, the American military power today is about 10 times bigger than anybody else's. And their power in space, what they're doing with Elon Musk is doing, what all these guys are doing, trying to go up there, mining asteroids. Hello, they're going to go mining asteroids. So all this is happening. So there's that innovative streak in American enterprise, which is the internet, what we are taking for granted. The internet, IT, computers, all AI, robotics, all this is coming from their minds, with Indians running the show. That's another extraordinary thing, that the people running these programs, running these companies, are Indian minds who are not doing it in India. Why are they not doing it in India?
What do you think?
Why do they have to go to America to do it? What is it that you all are doing here that prevents them coming and making this the Silicon Valley? Now, think about that. So what should the future leaders of this country do? I mean, without sounding really silly, I want to make India more like America. for economic and manufacturing and industrial purposes. But you can get licenses to do something like on a day. You can open a bank account in 2 minutes, and even if you go bankrupt, you go into Chapter 11 or whatever. You start again, and it's dynamic. So when Indians go to America, they become different, and they become their full potential, and they are serving America. Well, they should be serving India, but that's another story. And so your question really is, what is this a temporary hiatus? No.
It's not. So
It's the
things
end of a order that they created. They've stopped it.
Okay.
They said this is no longer serving our interests. The multilateral order served our interests because we got a huge standard of living for very little capital invested in cheap manufacturing countries. Now we are about to destroy our own industrial base. This is happening in Britain. In the United Kingdom, we make nothing. Really, absolutely nothing. Except the Rolls-Royce engine, thank goodness. But in America, they realized that they have to be more self-sufficient and they have to be more independent of other people's manufacturing.
Yeah.
The agriculture is superb. They don't need to be independent in the agriculture. The energy, they are self-sufficient. The raw materials, they are self-sufficient. But their production of manufactured things, they invested in cheap countries. Now they're bringing it back. Fine. For their own internal market, great. And in some ways, and Ajay, you may be able to tell me better, what percentage of the American economy is open and what percentage is internal? It's about 30%, right?
Yeah. Around that.
If they can live within those margins, now Britain is completely different. We have to export to live. And you, I think, are coming to that point. Our internal market is getting...
It's huge, yeah. See, American domestic consumption is about 60% of GDP. So they're not, and India similar, 60% of India GDP is domestic consumption, but a lot of our consumption is subsistence level. So very small agriculture holdings. The farmer is growing his own crop, eating their own crop, that kind of stuff.
That's subsistence.
Yeah, subsistence. So
Still.
So we have about 150 million Indians would be at Eastern European kind of per capita income levels, but a lot of it is still very subsistence. So we have to grow that. So government has done a lot of safety nets. We have free food for about 800 million Indians get free food every month. So that helps a lot. A lot of freebies being given. But we jumped into the service revolution before we really built the manufacturing. So what you have alluded, China did a much better job. So that was my next question. You said this order is ending, and you have seen the Soviet Union collapse in the 90s. You were right in the center of things. What comes now? What do you see in the next 5-10 years? How messy will this order dismantling? And I see a lot of geoeconomics now being studied, because the geopolitics is coming right into economics, with Trump every day announcing some new tweak to economics. So it's not that it's policy making like you would make in the European Parliament and then slowly it percolates to countries. There's consensual things. Now it's weaponization. 300 billion of Russian reserves get seized, or the sanctions on Iran. So every country is really thinking, the 15 trillion we have lent to the Americans, is that safe? Or Trump can any day.
When you sanction a country and seize its assets or stop the SWIFT or whatever you do, you are sending a message saying, don't mess us around. We are not your equal friends. We will always try to punish you to get our way. We'll tell you what to do, and if you don't do it, we'll do boom, right? Now, after a while, people are going to say, hey, chump, you go off and do your own thing. We'll go off and do our own thing. And so rather than bring more and more investment into America and making people convert their wealth into dollars and investing in America, he's actually chasing that away.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah.
And saying we don't want to be involved with the dollar. We don't want to be in SWIFT. We don't want to go to New York every time we want to sneeze. Now, here's another thing. You can move as much money as you want from California to New York without anybody asking any questions. Try doing that across international boundaries. And you have to go and get checked in New York. So coming to a point where people are saying, countries are saying, powerful countries are saying, we don't want to be part of this if we can do it ourselves. And they are trying to now form with BRICS, for example, an alternative to the dollar. So instead of trying to woo you back, saying, no, don't worry, you'll be all right with the dollar, we'll look after you, he's actually doing the other and accelerating the withdrawal from American dollar and American interest. I don't really know whether he's bluffing, whether when push comes to shove, whether he's just playing a poker game.
Yeah.
And if you go back into the tariff policies that is announced, has any country actually physically, economically suffered at the moment?
Not yet.
Not yet. But there have been all thunderbolts and threats, right?
Yeah.
But no damage.
But American companies, I'll give you examples like automobile. The three big American companies, Stellantis, Ford, and General Motors, have said this year they will lose $7 billion because of tariffs. Because, it's such an interesting game. 16 million cars sold in America, 8 million are sent from abroad. So, okay, you tariff them. 8 million.
Mostly to Europe, yes.
Yeah. 8 million which come into America, which are made in America, use 60% components either from Mexico, Canada, or Europe. So, it's not actually a made in America product. So, 60% of their value is getting tariffed. So, of the top 10 automakers, the worldwide, they are in deep trouble. They are forecasting. Nike, for example, you spoke about Vietnam. Vietnam has 130 apparel factories of Nike. They can't, Nike cannot function because 50% of its production comes from Vietnam. So if we stop Vietnam, the company would stop. So Puma and Adidas actually made losses for the last 2 quarters because of the tariffs. So companies are facing the issue.
You asked an interesting question. Are we going to go on as we were in a different order? And I have to tell you, and I look at the young people in this room, and I'm frightened for them. Because at the moment, we are still in control. I mean, we meaning human beings are still in control of our destinies. We are still in control of what we have to do. But if you create artificial intelligence and the quantum chip, and then put this onto robots, we will not be in control.
Could you, give us some more details, because you've done a lot of work on this in trying to at least set the pattern for AI plus robotics.
You only get out of AI what you have inputted into AI, what you have fed AI, what you have taught AI. So if you teach AI the wrong things, you'll get the wrong outputs for human existence. If you make AI look at efficiency, effectiveness, value for money, punctuality, and all these criteria which business people do, put into effect, and then you look at a human being and say, is this thing, the human, qualify for any of those things? AI will say no. So then the next question is, why is it there? What is the use of it? And AI will be told logically, get rid of it. It's in the way.
That's
in the
right.
way of creating this efficient, super performing economy.
It's very scary then.
Very scary if we,
Yeah.
because if we do it to ourselves,
Yes.
we are teaching AI to look at the world in a different way from the way we look at the world. We are teaching AI to look at the world only in economic terms. Now, what we should be doing is to teach AI to make us better. To teach AI to make humans more honest, more efficient, more kind, more generous, more God-like human beings. And no one, in my opinion, is doing that in where they're feeding all this data. And there are some very distinguished Indians and I who are working on this. How do you use AI as to augment the human existence to make us all better? So then we don't have to be scared of AI. So the robot will help us. If, for example, we were to tell a lie to a friend, old robot standing there with
But
right.
but you know, we have had two cases at least which are documented. We don't know, they must be innumerable, where a programmer was trying to shut down an AI program, and let's said, I would like you to self-destruct, and the program made copies of itself, and then it wanted to kill the programmer. It was looking for ways to kill the
Exactly.
program. So, I mean, and we have not reached singularity. We are still at before singularity. Do you see that as an issue? And
that
then
would happen if we fed, and now is the time we are feeding grok and all
Yes.
the other things. So if we are not putting human values into the feeding process, we will get a monster coming back at us. It's our fault. We've data inputted all the wrong values. We should be putting human values into AI.
And that brings me, Nirj, actually, we are sitting in
In
the
the
Art of Living International Center, and Pujya Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar ji is, traveling the world and espousing the importance of human values and how that can become the binding force of a more happy, harmonious world.
I didn't come here by
Society.
accident, actually. I wanted to say this because I'm writing this book with these other people about how to use AI to make human beings better human beings. Now, I'd like you, Rajita, with your great university, and Vijay, with your enormous following in economics, to come up with a way of using the art of living to feed the right values into the AI programs.
And how do we do that?
We have to go and talk to Elon Musk and all the people who are feeding Grok, Gemini, Perplexity, and all these other stuff. Because we don't have any of these things.
Right.
And what about policymakers? You as a global policymaker with contacts across Asia, Europe, you can make the policymakers listen to you, but
True.
nobody's...
European Parliament took a lead
Lead.
in controlling
Yeah.
and legislating for AI, but then how do you enforce it? How do you know it's happened until it's happened?
Yeah.
What we are trying to do is to prevent something happening.
Yeah.
So how do you do preventive legislation? You don't know it's happened until it's happened. And so I think the way of legislating to punish someone for breaking the law is too late.
Yeah.
We need to input now so that every single AI program from Willow chip onwards that's coming has embedded in it all the things that we call human values. What is this? What are human values? You can list them. We can talk about fairness, justice, love, consideration. How do you program? You have to program these things.
Compassion, empathy.
Compassion, empathy, forgiveness,
friendliness,
friendliness,
yeah.
as being all those need to go into the AI program to make us better human beings. If we can do that, if someone can meet that coding gap, bridge that gap of coding human values into the program, so that AI is actually kind, nice, then we have nothing to worry about. But if we miss this,
So that leads me to another question, which you can refuse to answer also. It's a tough one. But will we have a Terminator kind of a scenario where machines take over and they cause a nuclear winter in the world? Do you think that's a
it
probability?
depends entirely on what we program the computer to do. If we put the wrong values as the most preeminent values that it has to achieve, which is, say, efficiency. We want all programs, everything to run at 99.9% efficiency, right? So it becomes a standard that any AI program will look at everything and ask itself, is this 99.9% efficient?
At any cost.
At any cost.
That's the problem.
At any cost. There's no, that's it. That's the top of the mountain, which is what any company, industrialist, manufacturer would want. The machines to run properly, the inputs to come in properly, the outputs to come in properly, the people to come in on time, HR programs to run so that you mark people on how efficient they are and all that. But human beings are not.
So, in this environment, Nirj, now you are familiar with the work of the Art of Living Foundation around the world for the last close to 3 decades.
Yeah, 3 days.
What impact do you see organization like the Art of Living making in the world from your side, from your lens, and how this is helping the world cement into a more cohesive, collaborative, and harmonious?
The Art of Living and Sri Sri Gurudev has made a huge impact on human happiness, the human condition, alleviating people from a dark place to a lighter place, from dealing with trauma, making people forgive for whatever they've done. It's making a better place. Now, if you can take Gurudev and put him inside an AI program, we'll achieve what we want. But there's only one Gurudev. And so how do we synthesize into a computer coding program the Art of Living's values and encode them into every AI program? Now, if you can do that, and if you're asking me, is the Art of Living now, and this is a hard one, up to the changes that are happening out there? My suspicion, though I don't know the full story, is that it's not. I don't think anybody. Certainly the Catholic Church is nowhere still talking about values that were important a few years ago. I don't think the Buddhists, I have no idea what anyone's doing anymore. And that's why more and more young people are flocking back to faith, because they're lost. Did you see the Vatican outside the Vatican the other day?
Yes.
Millions of young people.
Yes, that was very impressive.
Why? When I was growing up, it was completely the other way around. We were in the free love and all that stuff, psychedelic power, all that's gone. Young people are wanting belief, faith,
To hold on
to something. Yeah. Now it's a huge moment because they know every day when they are doing something that they have no idea where it's going to lead to. So they need to know to hold on to something before they become really dislocated mentally. So I think now is the time to set up here an art of living AI embedding unit. I'm putting this all rather badly, where we go and tell these people who are running the AI programs to put all this in there too. Otherwise, what you are talking about, Terminator 2 and all this stuff, could happen.
How do you stay so relevant? Your ideas are so refreshing. It's like talking to a 30-year-old CEO of a IT startup. That's the kind of hold you have. How do you stay so relevant? And I know you travel a lot. You are always meeting global leaders. You solve a lot of issues. But how are you getting time to be on this relevance axis?
I have a deep knowledge of history. I'm an aeronautical engineer. I went into engineering to build space rockets. I ended up a policymaker and a politician. And while I was doing legislation, I began to understand the roots of history. I mean, one of the most violent things that happened recently in England was the assisted dying bill, which is the most disgusting thing any civilization could bring in, which is effectively legalizing killing all people because they're no longer of any use. I mean, civilized societies are doing that now. So why? Because it's efficient. Why are we killing, allowing assisted dying? So your mother has had a stroke. She's worked all her life looking after you, bringing you up, educating you, feeding you, encouraging you, supporting you right throughout your life. She's now old. She's had a stroke. She can barely move. She's bedridden. And there's no chance that she will ever get out and go and do anything useful in her life. So you look at your mother lying in bed and say, Mommy, why don't you die? I'll help you to die. Not I'll help you to get better, but I'll help you to die. So I'll talk to the doctor and say, Mommy says she's no point being a burden, and assist her to kill herself or die. She can't kill herself. She can't go and inject anything to herself. She's persuaded to tell the doctor to kill her. What have we come to? So we have put the normative value of being efficient or useful at the top of our existence, and everything that she's done for us, forgotten. And no one's talking about this. It passed through Parliament. And then abortion, they are trying to put abortion at any time. So when you look at Europe, and then you look at America, America still has strong human values about the sanctity of life. Still. In Europe, it's gone. Birth rate in Europe is collapsing. In Eastern Europe, Northeastern Europe, the Baltic states, populations are just shrinking. Shrinking. One of the Baltic state ministers told me, I won't mention which one, that out of every 1,000 pregnancies, 600 are aborted. And their replacement rate is so low that these countries will just disappear. Why? Because it's efficient for us now not to have babies. So what is the purpose of the very fundamental survival of the human race is being questioned on the altar of efficiency. You feed that into a robot. You feed that into AI. You had it. That's why we need to move fast here in the art of living.
And I know that you are very short on time, Nirj. So, with your consent, I'm going to do a bit of a rapid fire with you.
Go
Is
ahead.
that a good idea?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Three things you do every day to take ahead the question Ajay asked to stay relevant with your knowledge. Three things that you do every day.
I get up at 5 in the morning and I read all the headlines of the news
Okay.
that I get on my phone. Then I respond if I have to on X, and I comment on whatever is going on, and then I go back to bed
Okay.
and I wake up about 7, 8 o'clock. So in that 3 hours, I've dealt with what is contemporary in that moment of that day when the world is waking up. Then I keep reading everything I can on the run. So I think I could confidently say I know about 50% of what's going on around the world today in snatches. And if something catches me, I will go and dive deep. So I feel impelled to know, curiosity, if you
Okay.
like.
That's very helpful. Three skills you think, Nirj, that are going to be very essential for people to be successful in the world that we are in.
Wow. One, determination. Never give up. Never, ever, ever give up. Just give you an example. When I wanted to be a member of the British Parliament, and I was the first non-white Conservative MP coming from Sri Lanka, going to study in England, and telling my friends I'm going to be a member of Parliament, they looked at me and said, what are you smoking? Are you completely mad? You're not born here. The Conservative Party needs you to have local connections, local relatives, local this, local that. You have nothing local. How are you going to do this? I said, I don't know. 180 interviews later, in 180 seats, I got my seat. And I just went on and on and on and on. So,
Determination.
just never give up if you want to do something.
And two more.
Second, create a whole bunch of people who like you and will support you by helping them.
Very good.
And third, always remember to say thank you. And you're blessed then.
So nice. Determination, build a network of support, and I could say learning. And third is don't miss a chance to thank and
Thank you.
be grateful also.
Be
Maybe
grateful. Be
should we
grateful
add
for
that?
everything.
Wow.
Everything.
Okay. I'm going to do the three continuation. Three things, Nirj, you think students of today should prepare themselves for and how?
Okay. That's very important. Know how you arrived here. Know who you are and how you arrived here. And what your history of your genes, in the sense of who you are, what you are. You're proud to be an Indian. All Indians, Jai Hind, very proud. But what is India? How are we Indians? How are we Sri Lankans? How are we anything? What do we know about our country? How did we get there? How did this country get formed? What are its accomplishments? What are its great historical triumphs? What are its failures? To know how we are, who we are. The Americans know this. Their history starts.
Pride of our source.
Not pride, not to say we are better,
Awareness.
but to
Knowledge
know
of
who we are.
Right.
That's very important for young people. They're totally adrift. They don't know who they are.
Second.
Second, reconnect to the community, not to an ephemeral community out there who are really not for you at all. I mean, social media is bunk. When you fall ill, somebody in social media is not coming to visit you in hospital.
Absolutely.
When you fall in, only your neighbor or your cousin is going to come and see you in hospital. Though you may be liked and loved by 100 million people because you're a great influencer, not one of them will turn up.
Brilliant.
So reconnect to your roots. Don't let this new social media thing make you lose your roots and become floating in some ephemeral, ethereal place, which suddenly will collapse when they are no longer interested in you. So you should never base your identity on that. You should base your identity on the people around you, the people who you care for, see you every morning, and the good morning, how are you? It's very important.
Very nice. And the third thing?
Third thing is to save.
Save. Very important. Can you talk a little more about that?
Everybody's on the never, never dead thing. Tomorrow is always going to be better than today. So why save for the future? We'll just spend it now.
It's the YOLO generation, right? You only live once.
I'm talking to the younger generation as I see them. And they may be listening to me and saying, what a lot of nonsense this old man is talking about. I don't know. But that's how I see it.
So saving is important.
Very.
Very nice.
And looking at your career, developing on the three themes, I saw one very big shift that you made in getting elected to British Parliament, especially for an Asian coming in. Then you moved to the European Parliament, where you had an excellent innings. Then Britain decides to move towards Brexit. And again you reinvented yourself. And I see you busier than even earlier before, more influential, traveling the world. You increased your ambit from Europe to the world. How did you, these career turns, what allowed you to be so flexible, so agile? Because that's what Rajita teaches universities, companies, and we are all, looking for it. So that was one question. Second is the motivation. When you have been successful, 4-time British parliamentarian, MEP, and then other things, what is the motivation to achieve more then? Or, because a lot of people these days we see 35, 40-year-olds saying, I've had enough, stop the world, let me off. But I see you're the Duracell man. It just goes on and on and on. So these two questions. And it follows your three thing.
That's a question that my wife has asked me.
It's a secret sauce. So I think this will be the most important part of the conversation for me.
Well, I'll take it step by step. When we did Brexit, we did it on the basis that being outside Europe will, I hate to say this now, will make Britain great again. Right? And that Britain will need to, because we saw, or the British people saw Europe as that Europe fettered us into, constrained us and our international, and Britain has always been an international country, but we couldn't make our own foreign policy, we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that, and so on and so on. So when we were in our mindset, said to ourselves, okay, if we get out of here, we can reconnect to the world without asking permission from 26 other countries. But that didn't happen. So when it didn't happen, I started arguing with myself and saying, why the heck? Well, we have to do it. Otherwise, what else is Britain going to be? Like a floating island off the Atlantic coast with no purpose? With having, or becoming an old museum where people come and see people changing horses and old palaces and having tourists? What else is going on? So I really started thinking about what this country had achieved, what I call the people of Runnymede, the children of Runnymede. Runnymede is where the Magna Carta was signed. And at that point, something quite unique happened in human history, which didn't happen before and hasn't happened since. That the king of the day agreed to live under the same laws as his subjects. No king before that, ever, no emperor, no anybody agreed. He said, I make the laws, you do what I say. But, and then didn't add, and I will live under the same laws. But this king said, no, not only that, I will live under the same laws as you, and I will protect your freedoms. There will be no arbitrariness, there will be habeas corpus, there will be this, there will be that. No one can enter your house without a warrant from a judge. All these freedoms that came out of the Magna Carta, which spread all around the world. And we take it for granted in India, right? And in Sri Lanka and Malaysia and Singapore. These are our rights. Hello? Go and talk to someone in China or Russia or Turkey or where none of this stuff happened, or in the French colonies or in France. For example, the French president is immune from arrest. I, as a member of the European Parliament, was immune from arrest. And that day, I got a shock of my life. When I was in the chamber, about 2 months after I got into the chamber, and the president of the parliament said, now colleagues, we need to decide whether to lift the immunity of our colleague, Mr. X. So I looked at my MEP friend next to me and said, what's this about? And my friend said, didn't you know Mr. X killed a man by running him over on his tractor? And the police of that country want to question him. And for 3 years, we have stopped it by saying he cannot be questioned. He's immune. And I said, what? You mean to say, I can't break the law? He said, no, you're immune. The parliament has to give permission for you to be arrested. And I was like, oh my God, how alien is this compared to what I was used to in the British Parliament, where if I got breathalyzed and gone over the limit by driving, I'm finished. Or when one of Her Majesty's children was stopped for speeding, and that person said, do you know who I am? The policeman said, yes, I know who you are. You're so-and-so. Now here's your ticket. Go to the magistrate court. That doesn't happen in lots of places. So that gave me an idea that we must preserve that, protect it. And the president of Sri Lanka appointed me presidential envoy with plenipotentiary powers to promote Sri Lanka. And I used that to promote these values. And that's why we created what is now the Commonwealth Union.
Okay.
A union of people, not heads of state. And we are getting every vertical business, people running banks, airports, airlines, hotels, catering, all come together as communities. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Fantastic. So, last two questions. We've gone long over the time we thought we would have. What gives you hope for the future? And and connected to that, what is it that you see bright about the future? And considering that we are doing this conversation in the Art of Living International Headquarters, what would you say about the Art of Living's immense contribution to the world of today?
The Art of Living has done so much, and Sri Ravi Shankar Gurudev has done so much, but this is just the beginning. The Art of Living's moment is now. The Art of Living's values need to be embedded into our systems, as I said earlier. Now is the future. Now is the expansion period. It's not only about wellness, wellness of the body, wellness of the mind. It's also the wellness of our systems, what governs us, how our governing process is done. So I think Art of Living has a huge role to play, philosophically. And we now have the people all around and our people are educated people also. So they're in key positions around the world. This needs to be harnessed. There'll be a kickback. There'll be a pushback. Because once you start showing that you are powerful in the mind, in values, and in implementation, there will be a pushback. But that is very important to happen now.
It's part of the journey, I think.
Part of the journey. But what was the first? Last
What is your hope for the future? What do you see bright about the future?
If everything goes well, we will be one human race. If everything goes badly, we will be two human races. One living on earth and others living up there. And those living up there will be immensely resourceful, immensely given wealth, and the ones living here subject to climate change, floods, all the dustbin stuff. That's a fear, if you like. Our evolutionary next step could be that the whole of humanity benefits from what's going on in space, the research, the robotics, the space exploration, or only a very few privileged.
And I want to end still on a more positive and empowering note, because each of us who listen to this, what would you say? Because, when you say of making the world a better place, all of this is very monumental. And I say, I live in a small city, in a small, state of some country. What can I do? But what do you think I can do as a world, as a citizen of the world, to make this world a better place? 2 or 3 very simple things which I can do myself.
A unique individual outside the IT sphere of managing coding and creating some extraordinary
Inventions,
IT information system. I don't think an individual person in the physical world can do anything other than destructive things, like Robert Oppenheimer making the bomb. But collectively, we can do a lot. And it's getting together that is most important. I don't think a single human being, Gurudev is unique, that he created this huge mass movement. Not everyone can do that. I was talking about this in the car. Mahatma Ji created a huge global movement of non-violent, passive resistance to people who took away our human rights. But what happened when he went? The whole thing collapsed. So when you create a mass movement, or take, for example, Buddhism. How many Buddhists are there in India? Just all gone. So Buddhism is again art of living. It is not a religion. It's the art of living. So when you do art of living stuff like Gurudev is doing, Mahatma Gandhi did, Lord Buddha did, there has to be very firm foundations to make it go for 1,000 years with the people who can take it and run it with it for 1,000 years.
Wonderful. Anything in
No, this is amazing. Thank you so much. We feel very grateful, very privileged to have got this time with you.
I'm very happy to be here.
And with such deep insights into the world, what you see of it today and what you see of it coming in the future. I think this is going to be a very valuable sort of masterclass for everybody watching this.
My key takeaway, get to coding and putting human values into AI now.
Right.
Don't delay.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Nirj, for this wonderful conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jai Gurudev.
you.